Guys, I'm actually doing a book review video. I haven't done one in so long, but I felt that after reading this book, I wanted to basically do a review because it was such a fantastic book and it's so well worth it. And a special shout out to a Twitter profile who everybody should be subscribing to, who actually recommended the book, Soviet Afghan Wars Samurai 1980, who's a historical profile about the Afghanistan War of 1979 and Afghan related issues and culture. It is a fantastic profile. And I'll even put his Twitter handle in the description. And look, the book is called Fountainhead of Jihad, The Haqqani Network, 1973 to 2012. And it was a magnificent work. This is the book here. And man, I couldn't recommend this book enough. It was written by Don Rassler, who's an assistant professor at the Department of Social Sciences and the director of strategic initiatives at the Combating Terrorism Center at the U.S. Military Academy in West Point. And basically, it is only 320 pages, 7 chapters, not a very lengthy read, didn't need to be, packed, filled with references, and I believe it is over like 50, 60 pages of references. Always buy a book with references because one thing you'll know is that when certain points are made about anything in any type of event in history, where did this information come from? Can this information be verified? And my goodness, this book was heavily referenced. Great book by Don Rassler. It's based about the Haqqani Network, which was founded in 1970 by Jalaluddin Haqqani, who's actually a fundamentalist from the Zadran tribe, which is basically a tribe that is based out of Loya Paktia, which is the Loya Paktia region in southeastern Afghanistan and parts of Waziristan in neighboring Pakistan. Jalaluddin fought for Yunus Khalas's Afghan Mujahideen faction against the Soviets in 1979 and all throughout the 80s. And it was the Haqqani Network, which was one of Reagan administration's most funded through the CIA program, Operation Cyclone. Now, I consider myself a very voracious reader when it comes to Middle East terrorism, Southeast terrorism groups. And I heard about the Haqqani Network. I didn't know too much. And I tried to look for information, books that are out there by Haqqani work. I can safely say that this is the preeminent work regarding the Haqqani Network. Now, I usually take notes when it comes to books. I buy a notebook because I'm old fashioned instead of using a computer. I usually like to have the book in my hand, bright with a piece of paper. I'm an old kook like that, man. So I took 91 pages of notes, and it was really a learning experience. I can't thank Don Rassler enough for writing it. And the Haqqani Network was basically an interesting group, so to speak, whereas it's being offered protection by the Pakistan government through the ISI. But at the other hand, they're also a transnational jihadist network. They do offer logistical support to groups like the Tehrik-i-Taliban Taliban group out of Pakistan and also Al-Qaeda, even though that the Haqqani Network plays both sides of the fence. And Rassler really gets right to the point of the matter regarding how they do that. And when you read the book, and I'm going to link that to the bottom of the screen in the description box, you notice that the Haqqani Network's relationship with Pakistan is not always smooth, right? but it's very critical. And like Rassler says in the book, during post-2014, the former's connection with Pakistan government to transnational jihadist groups like Tehrik-i-Taliban or Al-Qaeda could be problematic for Pakistan than they previously thought, because when they consider the role that Pakistan plays, and they play both sides of the fence too. The ISI basically provides logistical support to jihadist networks, specifically to Taliban groups fighting against, like Jaish-e-Mohammed, fighting against the Indian government for a battle of Lahore and Kashmir, which a lot of people are not aware of. When we talk about, on the other hand, the Haqqani's network historical and recent behavior doesn't inspire confidence that the Haqqani network will ever disassociate or sever ties to transnational oriented jihadi groups, because they have a theological and political opposition toward the West, the United States, especially after 9/11, and how the US government, through its military and the CIA, had treated Arabs in general. And you can't blame them for that, even though I don't agree with it all or give credence to terrorism groups or terrorism acts. But the Haqqani network ideologically has sympathies with these groups. And one of the more important reasons for not severing these ties is a desire to seek revenge for the losses of what the United States did in Afghanistan and other countries like Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Even though the Haqqani network is not a transnational group, they're a more local group. And as Rassler points out in the book, the skepticism is not to say that a shift in the Haqqani's relationship with Al-Qaeda is impossible, even though Al-Qaeda, with the death of bin Laden and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri and the arrest of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and other important operatives of the group, Al-Qaeda is finished, for the exception of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and whatever affiliates are in North Africa. But the Haqqani network would rather not change the fact, because they enjoy the protection that the ISI gives them regarding regional and logistical support, as well as also siding with jihadist groups in their vitriol for the West. And Rassler really points out and really gives detailed data in regards to why the Haqqani network basically enjoys playing both sides of the fence. And there was a great, I think, chapter 6, which is the Pakistani state and its Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate. It really it really explains in full how the Haqqani network works well with the ISI and the Pakistan government. And as Rassler points out in that chapter, which I'm sorry, is chapter 5, during the anti-Soviet jihad, Jalaluddin Haqqani was a key recipient of aid from not just the CIA program Operation Cycle, but from Pakistan, more so from Pakistan, and a variety of other donors, including several Arab nations, specifically Saudi Arabia. And it was during this period that the Haqqani network solidifies itself as a valuable group, as a reliable, committed, and effective partner. And Charlie Wilson, who is the senator out of, Texas? Don't quote me on the state, but he basically was considering Jalaluddin Haqqani a moral man, a valuable person in the fight against the Soviets. And whether you want to say he's moral, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to tell you. He has basically committed acts of terrorism, and at the same time, I can understand why the terrorism acts exist. But then again, I mean, I can't call him a moral person because he's killed people. And that Jalaluddin Haqqani quickly rose to one of the ISI's most favored field commanders, and his family network were like really legitimate operational leaders. And he quickly became very valuable to the ISI and to the Pakistan government. And for many of the years to follow, I mean, throughout like 30 years. And what happened was they provided logistical and operational support to Pakistani fighters by employing them with training facilities and continued access to the battlefields, in which Jalaluddin Haqqani played a very pivotal role in facilitating the early development and as well as the military sophistication of the anti-Kashmir groups. And this is by the way, this is the key reason why the ISI and the Pakistan government tolerated and even helped the Haqqani Network, because they were providing support, heavy support for the anti-Kashmir groups. I think the Haqqani Network knew this, and this is the reason why they also gave secret support to jihadist groups. Many of the Pakistanis who fought with Jalaluddin Haqqani and the family would soon like shift their attention and employ their fighting skills and training that they acquired in training camps like Loya Paktia against the Indian forces in Kashmir, but also provided training and support for the Haqqanis in their fight against the United States, right, after 9/11. And some would even go on to create their own jihadist organizations and become legendary commanders. One such person was, I learned in the book, was Maulana Fazlur Rahman Khalil and Zakir Rahman Lakvi, who were actually part of two groups. One was the Harakat al-Mujahideen and the more famous Lashkar-e-Taiba group. Both are key groups in fighting against the anti-Kashmir groups. And India actually moved very swiftly after the Taliban's ouster, and through Operation Jawbreaker, which was a U.S. Special Forces and CIA operation to capture or kill Al-Qaeda and Taliban. Well, India saw that and took advantage to build a strong relationship with Afghanistan by building and managing infrastructure projects in what Don Rassler would say that the analysts say was a concerted effort to minimize Pakistan's influence in the country. So there's a lot of like different various and very complex situations going on with Afghanistan, nefarious issues as well and agendas. And what happened was, when India started becoming an influence in Afghanistan, we started seeing major suicide attacks conducted against places like the Indian Embassy in Kabul, which took place in 2008. And more than a year later, in October of 2009, the Haqqani Network provided operational support and signaling effects to these jihadist networks fighting against India in Afghanistan. And so I could go on and on about this book, but I don't want to make it a long, like drawn out video. I want you to read the book. I really do. And, what I'll do in the future is, with books, after I've read them, I'm going to do review videos on this. And it's been a while since I did one. I think the last time I did one was Thomas Hedgehammer's magnificent work about Abdullah Yusuf Azam, which is the best book about the man in the world. And I was very glad in reading that. Fountainhead of Jihad, Don Rassler, excellent book. Pick it up right away. I'll link it to the description. All right. Have a good night, guys. See you in the next video.